som jag återkommande fått berättat för mig. En plats för afrikaners av afrikaners. Det är med andra ord en stad där bara vita bor.
It was a decision I made for my kids to grow up in an environment that I used to know when I grew up on a farm. And the situation in South Africa now is not what I like for my kids to grow up in. So that is why I made a choice to come here.
Oranias president är Karel Boshoff. Han är barnbarn till Sydafrikas förre president Henrik Verwoerd. Verwoerd brukar hänvisas som arkitekten till apartheidsystemet.
Yes, Orania was established as an Afrikaner haven, as you rightly said, in 1991. By that time it was already obvious to our leadership that minority government in South Africa was unsustainable. And we, as conservative Afrikaners, contrary to what some people might expect, was not trying to continue minority government, but we were neither, on the other hand, willing to give up the determination over our own affairs to a majority government that excluded or would exclude us and our interests. So already for some years, close to a decade before that, we have been discussing this concept of establishing a region, a part of South Africa, in which the Afrikaners could be the dominant population looking after themselves.
So it's not about ruling over blacks?
Absolutely not. It is the exact opposite of ruling over black people or whoever. It's a matter of ruling over ourselves, looking after ourselves, our own material interests, education, safety, all those kinds of things that really matter to people in their daily lives. And we started with zero, and we've grown over the past, 27 years. We've grown to a population of 1,500 people approximately.
You mentioned Gauteng, and me and my crew just arrived from there, and when we're driving around there, because you can't walk around in those areas, you see all these houses with electrical fences and barbed wire, but here in Orania you can actually walk around, and you don't even have a fence around the houses.
Yeah, not around the town as well.
Yeah.
That's the sort of demographic side of safety. Section that refers to self-determination. There's a section in the South African Constitution that says the right to the self-determination of the whole South Africa or the South African nation does not exclude the right of a cultural community like Orania to exercise self-determination in its own right.
So it's in the grasp of possibility to achieve some kind of autonomous self-determination.
It could definitely, and we work on that premise that it could be taken much further than we have taken it already. Yeah. As long as it is supported by the people affected by it. Of course, it's not something that could be forced down on people who don't want it or are not interested. But as long as it is something that people do and build out for themselves, it has been recognized, and we trust that we will keep up the kind of relationship and power balance to have it recognized in future as well.
Under mina vistelser här i Sydafrika har jag fått en uppfattning av Orania som till stor del baseras på andras uppfattning om staden. En form av visklek har format min förutfattade bild av staden som ett traditionellt farmarsamhälle där det hålls hårt på den afrikantiska kulturen. Ett samhälle som domineras av den gamla skolan. Äldre bönder som vill leva som de alltid har levt. En samling bakåtsträvare, för att uttrycka det milt. Jag blev därför glatt överraskad när jag kom fram till Orania och fick se ett litet samhälle som sjuder av liv. Där genomsnittsåldern är strax över 30 och som domineras av barnfamiljer.
We are a bit different from the traditional school model in South Africa. We try to teach children to take responsibility for their own work by certain measures that we use in our system, in the method that we teach. So they don't have a certain time for a certain subject. They get a work schedule for each subject for the rest of the term, and they plan how they are going to do that work. So we control and we assist, and every week we go through the work. Are they where they should be? Did they do what they should do? If they are a bit behind, then we have certain measures. They have to stay longer at school for the next week. If they work ahead of the schedule, they can take certain days off or go home earlier. So it's all measures to motivate them to do their work on their own. And we've had quite a success with this method in the last 27 years because we have the record that not once in that time a learner who went to university or college did not complete the first year. And because you hear from universities quite often in South Africa that they lose students in the first year because it's just too much for them. Yeah. But because we already teach them, it only depends on yourself. If your work is done, you get the rewards. If your work is not done, you have to put in extra time.
So you got a pretty good track record.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, amazing. All right, should we go and meet one of the classes?
Yeah, we can look into the classroom. We also don't have
Och för att husera Oranias alla barn krävs 2 skolor. De 2 skolorna påvisar också en social kontrast där det konservativa och innovativa möts. En skola med uniformskrav och med en strikt traditionell struktur där ordning och reda är ledorden. Och en skola som utmanar det konservativa med en undervisning som sker mer på elevernas behov till vad de vill studera under lektionstiden. Snarare än att det är schemat som bestämmer över lektionen. Det är delvis överraskande att presidentens son går på den liberala skolan med den tidigare bilden som man har fått berättat för sig om Orania. Men ser man Karl Boshoff som en innovatör och Orania som en kreativ lösning på ett högst påtagligt problem så är det faktiskt inte så överraskande att sonen går på vad som en del konservativa skulle formulera som en flumskola. Däremot så går vicepresidentens Jackus barn på den konservativa skolan.
The Orania movement, we are tasked to promote the idea behind Orania. We've been doing that for the last 30 years since we were created as an organization in March 1988 to have this idea of Afrikaner self-determination in the Northwestern Cape, to promote that. So that's what we're busy with every day, is to try and tell people about Orania, get people involved in Orania, and get people to not only move here but also invest in this idea of Orania as a starting point for Afrikaner self-determination in this part of the country. Like we've done many times in the past here in South Africa. So our symbol on our flag is a young man who rolls up his sleeves and says, I'm going to do the job myself. I'm not going to ask someone else to do it. I'm not going to wait for someone else to do it. We say in Orania that Afrikaners lost their freedom. They lost their control over their own destiny for one reason, because of their dependence on other labor, on labor from other people. We're not going to make that mistake ever again. So our symbol is we will do it ourselves now. And that is why it's very important for us to even put that on our flag, to have that was one of our most important symbols in Orania. So I believe within the next few years that Orania will become a place where 20, 30, maybe 40,000 Afrikaners will live and work and have a very good life, you know. And we will probably see a lot of expansion of our land around Orania. That will be necessary. And we will see the development of further institutions on the way to greater self-determination, you know, where we are still lacking the institutions that can give us full self-determination. I think we will increase our capability of developing those institutions. And as we need a lot of people in Orania to do the work, there's a lot of jobs available. We also welcome people in need, and we use that as an opportunity to resettle many Afrikaners, young Afrikaner families, and of those people, many are young people in their 20s who came out of school and who just can't find jobs, and we settle them here. So the perceptions sometimes are that Orania is like a retirement village for Afrikaners, and that's not the case at all. We see that the average age of people in Orania are just over 30. And more young people in their 20s move to our town. We have in our 2 schools more than 300 children, so a lot of school children, a lot of young people in their 20s who do basic work in Orania, and they will be the future of this town.
And what's the procedure to becoming a citizen?
Well, if someone wants to move to Orania, they need to get a citizen right, you know. You need to apply for that. There's an administrative process, and where you need to, in the first place, commit yourself to certain ideals, you know. You need to commit yourself to the Afrikaner culture, the Afrikaans language, the way of life in Orania.
En av huvudanledningarna till att människor söker sig till Orania är på grund av den skyhöga brottsligheten i Sydafrika. Var och en åker i Johannesburg eller Pretoria så omges husen av murar med taggtråd och elektriska stängsel. Ens hem är ens fängelse. I Orania är barnen ute och leker fritt på gatorna, vilket är helt otänkbart i många andra delar av Sydafrika.
You guys like living here in Orania?
Yeah, it's very safe.
Yeah.
Very safe because we don't steal the stuff.
Yeah.
And we sleep with our doors open each door.
Det ger framtidshopp till Orania, och vilket är anledningen till att allt fler söker sig till vad som fungerar. Varje månad hålls informationsmöten för nya potentiella medborgare till den lilla staden.
Yes, we had an interview yesterday where they just ask you basic questions about why you want to come to Orania, what your interests are. They do a bit of a background check, you know, to check your reasons. So we had our interview yesterday, and today is just so that you can get an idea of what the history is like of the town. For me growing up, part of our school curriculum, they don't teach you about Afrikaans history. It's not part of our curriculum at all anymore. So they just here give you a bit of a background again about your Afrikaans history, about how the town was set up, and so yeah, it's just about a bit of background.
So when will you actually move here?
Well, we've only bought a piece of land now, so we probably build. And then take it from there and see. So it's a medium-term plan, and not something that we see maybe in the next year or 2, but maybe in the next 10 years we do plan on maybe moving. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thanks so much.
Well, we pay taxes to the South African government, same as any place, but we don't get any services from them. We buy our electricity from Eskom, which is the provider, which doesn't get sponsored by our taxes. The infrastructure, the roads, the sewage system, everything we do self. We do it ourselves. So we don't get anything from the South African government in that respect. What we do realize is that we're in the middle of South Africa and in Africa, and to be an effective community anywhere in the world, you need good neighbors. But self-sufficient, yes, we create our own infrastructure. We are focusing on sun power, solar power at this stage to try and get off the grid as much as possible, but it's a process. I mean, you can't just turn off a switch and then everything is sorted. So we're building towards more self-sufficient. And I think the more time we have, the more we can actually get to that route. Fact is, it's not a very popular idea at this stage, but we still believe that self-sufficient communities is the way forward, not just for South Africa, for the rest of the world as well.
Samhällsutvecklingen i Sydafrika är oroväckande. Den vita minoriteten kan inte påverka det politiska med hjälp av röstsedeln. Några har därför valt att bygga sin egen trygghet här, i Orania, i separation utanför det havererade sociala skyddsnätet. De vill leva med sina egna och inte på bekostnad av någon annan. De vill leva i fred, i ett samhälle som fungerar.